pleasure to be here. And thank you very much for the European Development Days to have considered our session as important. So as a short introduction, I would like to remind that during the pandemic and other disasters in the past, we have been able to observe fast and innovative responses of cities. You all know the Paris 15-minute solution, the donut economy of Amsterdam, insurance policy of Istanbul. In the morning, we heard about the growing trees of Freetown, the disaster prevention strategy of Makati. And these are only some examples of hundreds of innovative solutions local government develop permanently. In the morning, there was our member, Mayor Sefiani, talking about Chefchaouen. So this is a small or intermediary cities, and they do a lot of work which is largely unknown and unattended in global knowledge. So besides numerous tools being available, the pandemic shows the interest and need of capacity of many cities that are still left behind and unable to access funding or capacity and conduct resilience strategies and analysis. And these examples, which I mentioned before, and the many, many more, are the big treasure we deal with in UCLG, and we make them globally accessible through learning methodologies. So to tackle this, United Cities and Local Government, we are UCLG, UN Habitat and UNDRR, we have joined forces to scale up local resilience. Building on peer learnings, existing publications, you can see on the screen, building on the SDG localization process and the UN Habitat resilience profiling approach, a new resilience learning module has been rolled out. This tool is built with local knowledge and is an open source for training of trainers everywhere in the world, wherever they want to use, and we are particularly addressing this to local government association. You will know why. So maybe now I would like to come to the agenda of today. My name is Sarah Höflich. I'm the UCLG Learning Director, and I speak from the city of Barcelona, and with me are 4 guests. I have 2 program directors of United Nations. I have the mayor of Niteroi. I have the executive director of Costa Rica Association with me. So, but not only you are with me, also there are many, many other people listening and being connected, and we would like to know about you. So in the poll, which you can find on the right side of your screen, please don't hesitate to answer the questions so that we can know where you work, what are your understandings, and to come to this in the end of the session, react to any of your concerns. So to United Cities and Local Governments, I think those of you who joined the EDD have already seen our African session, executive session in the morning, but we are the global network of cities, local regional governments and associations. And as such, we are mandated in the United Nations to represent cities. So when it comes to resilience and sustainable urbanization, we work twofold. We work through policy and we work through learning. Policy making is mainly a bottom-up acknowledgement of local initiative, of local policy making, of local narrative, of local action to show these local activities, how they contribute to a peaceful and sustainable planet. And this is the usual work UCLG stands for in the United Nations. But we are also, because local and regional governments are caretaker and public service providers. So we are also engaging in the GCOM process, in the Paris Agreement, and in the Making Cities Resilience Initiative we will come to. The second angle of working on resilience is our learning portfolio. So we have prepared a short video to show you what this means, and we are doing this in partnership, and that's why we are here in the company of the United Nations. So please go ahead and show the video.
A resilient city is able to absorb, adapt, and recover from potential shocks and stresses, transforming itself in a positive way towards sustainability. Cities are composed of interconnected environmental, social, cultural, and economic systems of services, which play a key role in maintaining a well-functioning whole. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of local and regional governments' capacity to maintain and improve the care, services, and attention provided to communities. In order to support resilience-based, sustainable and inclusive development, UCLG, UN Habitat and UNDRR have developed the Resilience Learning Modules. Building on real experiences, the modules integrate principles of action learning and gamification. Through lectures, exercises and games, you will analyze critical stakeholders, sectors and resources. You will learn how social, cultural, and economic policies need to be part of cross-cutting strategies to leave no one behind. How to build resilience in urban areas, including informal settlements, through spatial planning and physical risk reduction measures. How to integrate the multiple benefits of ecosystems with regional approaches and nature-based solutions. How to develop governance mechanisms for response and recovery in line with the principle of building back better. The modules underline the role of local and regional government associations to push for an enabling environment at the national and international levels to support locally sensitive resilience strategies. Localizing the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction and making cities resilient will be critical to achieve Agenda 2030 and foster the transformation we need, starting now. Join us.
So here you could get a small idea, and all this work is built on numerous peer learnings, awareness raising, accompany mayors and associations in their national strategies for making cities more resilient. And of course, we see that the Making Cities Resilience 2030 initiative is the key piece to go forward into the agenda, which we all now need, because if one word the pandemic has been really made fashionable and very sounding, it is resilient. And strategic planning, urban planning will have to shift. So we are in this mood and we are learning from our members how to do it. And for the moment now, I would like to give the floor to Sanjaya Bhatia. He is the director of the United Nations Disaster Risk Reductions Office for North-South Asia and of the Global Education and Training Institute for Disaster Risk Reduction. So
the learning module has been developed. The learning module has been developed in collaboration with UCLG, with UN Habitat and with UNDRR, all three collaborating together. It is targeting the associations of municipalities and local governments around the world because they have a very big role to play in the agenda of urban risk reduction and urban resilience. If the associations of municipalities can pick up this agenda and work closely with the members, the local governments who are members, then there can be a very significant scale up of urban resilience and risk reduction. And that's why these learning modules are specifically targeting this group. Within the learning module, there are many tools, many approaches which are showcased. And this is all a key part of what is known as the Making Cities Resilient 2030 Global Initiative. The MCR 2030, the link is here in the slide, was developed after almost 2 years of consultations with cities and local governments and their partners in urban risk reduction and resilience. It builds on 10 years of learning from the Making Cities Resilient campaign, which ended in 2020. And this new initiative is from 2021, so started in January of this year and goes all the way to 2030, in line with the SDGs, the New Urban Agenda, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Paris Agreement. The learning module is a very, very key component under the MCR 2030. And we hope that it can reach out to more and more associations of municipalities and local governments so that the need and the approach for urban resilience is clarified. Now, when we look at the volumes of the learning program, the volume 1 is looking at the systemic understanding of resilience. So looking at how resilience is based on the different systems and the underlying factors, without which the resilience cannot be sustained. So looking at an integrated approach, looking at a partnership approach, because not one institution can manage. There has to be a broad-based support from all kinds of partners, including the private sector, academia. Looking at the governance issues, looking at the climate trends and the environmental issues, but also looking at the socio-economic processes. So, for example, the underlying drivers of risk, poverty, education, health. What role do these play in improving or weakening urban resilience? So the systemic approach is all looking at the stresses, the shocks, and how they interact with the hazards to increase the vulnerability and exposure, and in that way, how we can reduce the risks by addressing these issues. The volume 2 looks at the strategies and actions that a local government or a city can use, how to develop these strategies and how to develop an action plan, looking at the diagnostic tools that a local government can use to understand where they are as far as resilience is concerned, what are the weak areas, what are the areas which need to be strengthened, and what are the actions that the city needs to take to increase its resilience. So the entire learning module is looking at all of these approaches, the tools that are available, and the intention is to empower and capacitate the municipal associations so that they can disseminate this to their member cities and municipalities, and we can achieve greater urban resilience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjaya, and it's really a very beautiful partnership I think we have with UNDRR, Getty, and UN Habitat. And you were mentioning the role of local government associations. So I would like to come to this point because, of course, local government associations are the articulator of global agendas at national level. So we as United Cities Local Government work on global level, but very closely with the local government association in the countries. And now I have the pleasure to invite Karin Porras. She is actually the executive director of Costa Rica Local Government Association. Also, she's leading the green agenda in our regional chapter, FLACMA, and she's also chair to an association, CAMCAICA. This is joining all the local government associations in the Caribbean, and the Caribbean is so particularly vulnerable and very well known, unfortunately, because of the disasters that occur in your region. So you also do a lot to overcome this situation. You work with a EU-funded project, Interlasse, for example, which is looking on nature-based solution and ecosystem restoration. So these are very innovative approaches. We all take them up in our module, in particular in the second module. And now I would like to do a question to you. So my question is, how does your association help members to scale up resilience building at the local level? How do you work with and within city networks to foster and facilitate resilience building? And what are your main advocacy purposes? So don't feel shy to speak in Spanish. I understand we have the translation organized.
Gracias, Sara. Reciban todos y todas un saludo cordial de mi parte y de parte del equipo de la Unión Nacional de Gobiernos Locales de Costa Rica. Como bien lo decía Sara, nosotros somos una organización que representamos a los 82 municipios de Costa Rica, a los 8 consejos municipales de distrito, a las federaciones, y tenemos más de 43 años de servirle al régimen municipal costarricense. Somos una entidad de derecho público que además tenemos patrimonio propio y libre administración. En esta emergencia sistémica del COVID-19 ha evidenciado la importancia del liderazgo de los gobiernos locales como articuladores y gestores en el territorio. Las asociaciones municipalistas como la nuestra trabajamos para promover, posicionar y destacar esa labor tan importante que hacen los gobiernos locales. También favorecemos la coordinación entre estos. Demostrar el impacto de la acción local es una de las grandes tareas que tenemos como asociaciones de municipios. Reunir las voces de las ciudades grandes, intermedias y pequeñas y hacerlas llegar a los diferentes espacios de toma de decisión. La Unión Nacional de Gobiernos Locales es una asociación municipalista de Costa Rica, pero además, como bien lo decía Sara, hemos logrado articularnos en la región, en la Confederación de Asociaciones de Centroamérica y el Caribe, denominada CAMCAICA. Estuvimos a cargo de la presidencia en Costa Rica del 2018 al 2020 y actualmente, en efecto, tenemos la presidencia de la FLACMA, de la Federación Latinoamericana de Ciudades, Municipios y Asociaciones Municipalistas, donde nuestro presidente, el alcalde de San José, es el presidente de FLACMA y es el presidente actual de la Unión Nacional de Gobiernos Locales, que además es el alcalde de nuestra capital en Costa Rica. Como ustedes saben, la región centroamericana y principalmente la del Caribe son regiones vulnerables a riesgos climáticos y eventos extremos. Por esta razón, uno de los temas que se trabaja desde la Confederación es la construcción de resiliencia, con el apoyo de CGLU y sus socios, pero también aprovechando la experiencia y las buenas prácticas que ya se desarrollan en la región, reconociendo el valor del aprendizaje entre pares. Como asociación, buscamos contar con una amplia red de contactos que nos permiten apoyar de mejor manera a nuestros gobiernos locales, conocer las necesidades y los logros de cada municipalidad nos permite a las redes alcanzar la pertinencia en la calidad y el tipo de información, las herramientas, los recursos y las oportunidades que promovemos, al tiempo que establecemos las condiciones habilitantes para poder aprovecharlos y potenciarlos. Como asociaciones o redes buscamos también construir líneas de apoyo por y para los niveles locales. servimos de conexión o punto de organización para las municipalidades, para que éstas propongan proyectos o sean objetivos de financiamiento. Este es el caso del aprendizaje entre pares que hemos establecido con CGLU y proyectos como Interlace o Mueve, que es ya muy nacional para las 15 municipalidades de la gran área metropolitana en Costa Rica, que han sido financiados por la Unión Europea en concursos que nosotros hemos estado en representación de los gobiernos locales. Las asociaciones municipales, las redes, tenemos que favorecer varios procesos para contribuir con el desarrollo de ciudades resilientes, inclusivas y sostenibles. Debemos promover capacidades para integrar la gestión del riesgo de desastres como una herramienta de análisis estratégico en la planificación de cada gobierno local. También facilitar las mejores herramientas como las que se incluyen en los módulos de resiliencia y las que compartimos en el aprendizaje entre pares con Camcaica y a inicios del 2020, cuando todavía nos podíamos encontrar. También promover espacios de intercambio donde entre municipios se demuestra el valor agregado del trabajo en conjunto y garantizar mecanismos para promover la integración o articulación entre las agendas. Por ejemplo, el proyecto Interlace que antes les mencionaba, enfocado en la restauración de ecosistemas urbanos que nos da herramientas para la gobernanza e implementación de soluciones basadas en la naturaleza, que son costo eficientes también para prevenir y gestionar el riesgo de desastres en las ciudades, favorecer la resiliencia y son también acciones climáticas. Con el proceso también que tuvimos con CGLU en Santana, que es una ciudad de nuestro país, se realizó con ONU Habitat, con CGLU, con la Oficina de Naciones Unidas para la Reducción de Desastres, se demuestra también que las herramientas utilizadas favorecen una visión integral de los stocks y los estrés en los territorios. Demuestra que el abordaje involucra diferentes áreas de la gestión municipal y por lo tanto su abordaje debe ser más estratégica y articulado. Este es un ejemplo de temas de movilidad o recurso hídrico que involucra la coordinación entre departamentos a lo internos de la MUNI y con otras instituciones, inclusive con otras municipalidades vecinas. Esta es mi presentación, quedo a las órdenes. Gracias por el tiempo.
Thank you so much, Karin. This was, of course, a very important introduction, and you all listen now the word mayor so often, and local government, and then associations, of course, are critical because the political work is a long story. And we are now coming, because we have here with us a mayor, the mayor Axel Greil. He is the mayor of Niteroi. For those who know Brazil a little bit, everybody knows the Bay of Rio de Janeiro, the beautiful bay. But there are two cities. One city is Rio, and the other one is Niteroi, just opposite Rio de Janeiro on the same bay. It was unfortunately also famous in 2010 when there were major landslides. But since then, the city has managed to implement an integrated GIS-based system for risk assessment and a comprehensive resilience plan. So with a particular focus on the most vulnerable populations in the informal city. So that has been reflected in a proactive response from the very early COVID pandemic and became an important example for us for the learning module. So Axel, before you came mayor, you were the Secretary of Planning and for the special projects. You were already very involved also in exchanges. We also did a peer exchange with the GIZ, Connective Cities, And there you have been very proactively attracting German cities and Latin American cities to come to you and see and reflect about the lessons of Niteroi. So you, as a city, how have you benefited from this process, and what do you think are your challenges to scale up resilience action for intermediary and peripheral cities, like in your own, but also on political level, thinking in all the other cities that are joining you in this challenge in Brazil? So to move the resilience and climate agenda forward. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Besides being the mayor of the city of Niteroi, I am also the vice president of the Brazilian Mayors Association, and my work in this association is to work the sustainable development goals in my cities and other cities in Brazil. As you said, Niteroi is across the bay from Rio de Janeiro. In 2010, we had landslides and hundreds of people lost their homes and many lost their lives. And we started a resilient program to protect the land, protect the slopes of the city, and we started today is known as the best disaster relief office in Brazil, and we started a program to protect our urban forests. As you can see here in the picture, this is in the middle of the city of Niteroi, and we have today more than 50% of our territory as protected areas, and we're working hard to implement those parks and protected areas. We started a $100 million program to enhance the infrastructure of the city, and also to implement those protected areas. We have probably the best experience in Brazil today to start nature-based solutions, especially for drainage, and this is just being implemented. Works are being done right now, so we will have a very nice park, and that will help to protect a lake system, and also to improve our drainage system in the fastest growing part of the city. In the beginning of this year, when my term started, I started in 1st of January. One of our objectives was to start the first city climate policy office in Brazil, and this office coordinates all our efforts on climate change and resilience. So I would like to thank GIZ for interacting with us and also some 2 years ago we had cities from Latin America visiting Niteroi and sharing experiences with us, and so that was very important to build up our own policies, and I'm sure we had some good ideas to share with the others. So that's basically what we are doing in Niteroi concerning sustainability and resilience. So thank you very much for the opportunity to to be here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, to be with us. There's so much to learn from your city, and as from many intermediary cities. No, so we should not forget that innovation needs people who lead innovation and needs mayors who go for it. And I think all this very rich agenda, in particular, the new agenda of nature-based solution, we just have so much to learn from each other. So there's also one word that came up in your speech. It is governance. So besides the role of mayors, the roles of association, of course, we have been now showing a little bit the importance of governance. And we have again prepared some poll questions. So we really would like you to attend the poll and to give us your insights so that we can later come to this back. But now I have another speaker here with me, a good friend and long-standing colleague in all this work around resilience. It is Esteban Leon. He's the director of the UN Habitat Cities Resilience Program. And he has been a key initiator for us to go into this agenda, because we have been really looking at his work and thought, okay, how can we come to a larger scale, because he has really important pilot experiences. He has been driving forward, and he will tell us now on these unique points of the modules, how cities can also smaller cities can benefit from the experience, and how does this process build your knowledge in, and we come and bring resilience to scale, so that in the coming years we have a really broad connection and access to our work. Esteban, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I will remove my glasses because the reflection of the screen, I will go blind now. The reflection of the screen is a bit bothering. Well, I think that it's important to give a bit of a background here. I know Sarah and Karen and Sanjaya and most of you from many years ago of working in urban resilience. I think that it's important for us to make sure that we understand what we are doing and why we are doing it. First, we have to recognize that the world is urbanizing at a very rapid scale. The world has passed from 50% urban-rural in 2015, and now we are much more urbanized than rural. And that's reality, and that's something that is not going to change. I mean, cities are here to stay, and they will keep growing, and more cities will appear and proliferate. So that's one thing. The other thing is also that population has grown quite extensively in the last decades. If we think that 50 years ago we were 2 billion people in the world, now we are almost 8 billion people, which means that it's a really, really high increase. And with that, it comes also, of course, rapid urbanization, rapid population growth comes with some increase in vulnerabilities. So we have to be conscious of this. We are entering into a world which is more and more challenging. And the point is that we are not capable enough to grow at that speed in terms of securing our inhabitants of this world. And this is a clear example. I mean, COVID is one example, right? When we all thought that we were quite well advanced in technologies and innovations and new practices, yet we find ourselves closing our houses, working from home. And we didn't expect this. So that shows us that actually, if we don't start working on building resilience, we are going to be in quite bad shape in a few more years. COVID is one, the socioeconomic part that brought COVID. I mean, most of the cities are in crisis. We are experiencing economic problems. Most people are with economic problems. But also we have to see the climate change effect and what's going to come to us and is coming to us. So if we think in these terms, and we actually recognize the fact that we are growing in a world that is increasing vulnerabilities day by day, only due to these simple factors, we have to start thinking in broader terms on how do we start actually working on increasing our resilience. I think that disaster risk reduction is something very important, but we have to be more proactive than reducing risks, pre-existing risks. We have to start building what the future cities will look like, and that's the whole thing or concept of urban resilience. In UN Habitat, we went through a very interesting experience. I was lucky enough to work in UN Habitat during different settings. I work in humanitarian response during many years, engaging into trying to make sure that whenever we rebuild a city that was affected by a crisis situation, we do it applying risk reduction techniques and building resilience for the future. And that took us as UN Habitat to a next level. And we said, okay, let's think and let's try to make sure that we actually build resilient cities and build resilient systems, because at the end of the day, cities are just are composed of urban systems. So what we have done in UN Habitat is start to analyzing the different systems. And when I say urban systems, I'm referring to electrical systems, mobility, communications, water supply, waste management, I mean, whatever, everything that makes a city a city. And we managed to do that. We managed to create a tool, a very solid methodology for diagnosing resilience in cities and for providing cities and local authorities with recommended actions that will change the life of their citizens and inhabitants in general, and will support the building of these kind of important cities or resilient cities. The point is this. The point is that yes, we have produced that. We've been working in many cities on that. We work in Santana on a very pilot case with Karen and Sarah. We work in Brazil, in Teresina as well, for our colleague from Brazil, for him to know. Teresina is one of the cities that has been implementing our methodology. We work in different settings, in different city settings, landlocked cities, island cities, East Africa, West Africa, Siberia, the coldest city in the world, Yakutsk, in Brazil, as I said, in Santana. But the reality is that this world, as I said, is urbanized. We have, I don't know, 40, 50, 60,000 cities, probably, major cities as well, secondary cities. And at this path, we are not going to be able to implement what Sarah said, the agreements, the Paris Agreement, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, the New Urban Agenda, the Sendai Framework. Why? Because we cannot support all the cities all the time. So that's the reason why we engage with UNDRR and with UCLG, and we took Karin on board and the city of Santana in order to try to create and from that methodology that we produce in UN Habitat, have a methodology that it's lighter, that it's more kind of faster, and that it's upscalable, and that we can actually go with local authorities and UCLG and try to implement as in many cities as possible. Because if we don't do that, if we don't do this, we are never going to achieve our objectives. And we know that we have a benchmark or a deadline, let's say, which is 2030 for the SDGs. And I think that we cannot fail and arrive to 2030 with a very limited number of cities that we have supported and without knowing how other cities are doing. So that's the main reason, and that's the rationale for this. I hope that this provokes some thinking I hope that makes you think about, one, urbanization. Second, how are we urbanizing this world? Third, how are we expanding these cities? Fourth, how are we supporting the capacities? Because the city is not composed only of local authorities, it's all of us, private sector, it's all stakeholders in a city. I hope that I trigger some of these questions to you, and I hope that you end up engaging into this adventure that it's building resilience in cities. Because if you ask me to translate this, it's basically sustainable development, sustainable urbanization. Which means that we not only build the city, but we also look at the future and make sure that we reduce any shocks, potential shocks that we have, and we make sure that our stresses are lower than what we have now. I don't want to go much farther. I don't know how many minutes I spoke. I used to speak quite a lot sometimes. So I will leave it here, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Esteban, and thank you for connecting all from far away. So I would like to ask our organizers at the EGD on two things. If it's possible, if the poll result would be reflected in the screen, this would be very helpful. And otherwise, I would like to do another question, last question, or ask for statements to our participants. So here we can see on the poll, the biggest challenge for building resilience, 75% community empowerment and social inclusion. This is an amazing result. And of course, it's very much to the point Esteban was doing at the end. City is not only the administration. And the financing and technical expertise the same. And we hope that we all together can at least on technical expertise improve. So next. Okay, that was a poll, yeah. Thank you. Now for the last part, in the last minutes, maybe in our module, we look at the year 2100, because this is really the horizon climate agenda has to think about. And this is not so easy to bring down in a local decision. But we have the other horizon, the 2030. So this is an agenda we need to be there ready. And towards 2030, maybe a critical area in the next 5 or the next 10 areas you would like to be addressed and to be worked more internationally and more in partnership. So Mayor Axel, could you give us a critical area you would like the international community and us to be aware of, so of your work?
Yes, please. I think what we could share with other cities are the solutions that we are implementing on our high areas and also on flood areas, and considering that this is a major challenge, especially for other cities on the coast side of Brazil. I think this is one thing that we could share and learn from others. And at the international level, I think the main cooperation should be on technology and on local practical experiences, because that is very important to have more people involved on the solutions.
Thank you, Mayor Axel. I think you shared critical points. Water and oceans rising level, a big knowledge system to get accessible data, knowledge and everything. This is very critical and we look forward. Karin, do you want to say one sentence? Because we are now at the limit. We are at the limit.
Listo.
No, espérense. Sí.
Listo, gracias. Sara.
Okay. Thank you very much then, and sorry for this bringing you to the limit. And thank you all for joining us in this effort and for the European Development Days for inviting us.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, and thank you all panelists. It seems to me that you have a great community of practice already going on, and I'm sure you have motivated many of the public and audience today to join you in this endeavor. It was great to hear your experiences, great to hear how you have been using these capacity building tools to find concrete solutions and practical solutions in your respective context. And it was great to hear that this collaboration and this actually pooling forces and working together is to build resilience, of course, in cities and in urban contexts is actually working. So thanks a lot. Thanks again very much for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. And goodbye. Bye.